The Protean, okay.
So, the Protean is interesting that it's clearly in reference to Robert De Niro's career.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro is never directly named, but it has. It's kind of like a Stevens take, and then you use pop culture with it. This is another one like The Prisoner that it doesn't seem like anyone could have wrote besides you. And then it also uses slashes as a way to give duality to many of the lines in the context of if you parse them down to prose, and pretty supreme jabbing for the most part. This is a great poem. I don't know if I put it in the upper tier with The Prisoner, but it's interesting how you take this, don't really refer to De Niro and get things outside of De Niro, but at the same time you can read into this, and it lets off probably at the last great role that he had, which was in Goodfellas.
Yeah, this is a poem, and this is a perfect example of a poem that I would call just a minor poem compared to many of the other.
Yeah, relative to some of the other things in Lee Bestiary, it's not a great poem. But I wanted to talk about this one as like a arguably great poem, but does more with its subject than most poets would ever do. It's kind of like how if you look at Kurosawa or Uzu's lesser works, how they can take melodramatic subjects and horrible screenplays and rise them up into greater art.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Yeah, I mean, that's about all I can say of the poem. It's about Robert De Niro. If you get it from the titles of each section, as some of the films that he made, it has moments here and there. It's one of those poems that, and I always talk with this about Jessica and my work. I say that there's one of the pitfalls of being great at something is that you get sort of inured to it. And so I do find it interesting when young people have written to me, and if I send poems or they'll talk about work that I've written or essays that I've written that mean a lot to them, and yet it's something that is such a minor thing to me, and it's I find it interesting some of the poem choices that you want to talk about, because again they seem to me a lesser or minor. They seem a lot of them are ones that I just said, okay, let me do this. That they're just sort of mental exercises. It's sort of me just at a speed bag getting ready to fight Sonny Liston kind of thing.
Well, I wanted to talk about some of the minor poems. We can also speak about. We talked off camera about a poem called Faith, which I would put in the upper half of your greatest works.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about poems that most people haven't read, and you're very good at picking some of the best poems that you have and putting them on Cosmoetica. You're very hyper aware of where your lesser work resides and where it doesn't. There's poems that reside in True Life that the public hasn't seen, like Nat Turner's Mind, but we've already spoken about that one.